After tear-jerking statements from the family of Travis Alexander, we could finally hear from Jodi Arias today. In a matter of hours, her defense team will try and convince the jury to spare her life. And they say we'll hear a different side of Jodi Arias about who she is when she addresses the court. Will that be enough, though, to counteract the emotional statements from Travis Alexander's brother and sister? So emotional. Welcome. Good morning. I'm Mike Alanos in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's all going to go down. This is a special edition of Morning Express. Jodi Arias on trial. Jodi Arias's final plea. What can she say? That's what everybody's talking about. We expect to hear from Jodi Arias today, among others. But what can she say where the jury will show mercy and spare her life? Can anybody say anything at this point to save Jodi Arias' life? Now, we want to hearken back. Want you to listen. This was the post-verdict interview. This is KSAZ, 20 minutes after she's found guilty of first-degree murder. What's she talking about? She's very matter-of-fact. She'd rather die than live. It's the ultimate freedom for her. Let's listen to that.
I said years ago that I'd rather get death than life, and that still is true today. I believe death is the ultimate freedom, so I'd rather just have my freedom as soon as I can get it.
Okay, that was Jodi Arias 20 minutes after she's convicted of first-degree murder. Does she still believe that? Is that what she's going to say? What demeanor? What tone? What, again, could she say to save her own life? Can she? Let's bring in our special guest. My colleague from CNN, Ted Rollins, is with us, and great attorney Chris Chestnut as well. Ted, I'll start with you. I still think she's going to shot, and I think she's literally going to hold court. I don't think this is going to be some 5-minute statement. I think she's going to be out there a while. What are your thoughts?
Well, what I have learned covering this trial is you don't predict anything, because once you think something's going to happen, boom, the opposite happens. I do agree that she is comfortable in front of this jury. She's spent 18 days on the witness stand. She has her choice. She could be a witness and face potential cross-examination from Juan Martinez, which I don't think she'll choose. I think she'll just make a statement, but I do think it is going to be a lengthy one. The question is, will she ask to be spared, or will she continue on with this theme that she had in that post-verdict interview by basically saying she wants her freedom, and that is death? I doubt she'll go there. I think it'll be more about apologizing and saying things about Travis Alexander and what she did. She brutally murdered him, and I do think that she will apologize on some level during her moment in front of this jury, her last moment.
That's a key point, Ted. I mean, are we going to hear the two words, I'm sorry? Let's bring in attorney Chris Chestnut on that, because, Chris, I mean, how she says I'm sorry and what follows it could have an effect on any appeal moving forward, right?
It could. It could. You know, this crime is so heinous, it's been so vicious, it's so calculated, until even if she does say I'm sorry, I'm not sure that the jury will buy into it. I don't think she has any credibility with the jury or, quite frankly, with the public. I would not have given that interview after the initial conviction, but I think at this point all she can do is harm herself. I would bring in character witnesses to testify on her behalf, but this is not someone you want on the stand, because she has zero credibility in front of a jury.
Hey, speaking of that interview, Chris, I'll stay with you. Can that be brought into court? Because I think it's a gold mine for Juan Martinez. Not only does she say she wants to die, she's also ripping the victim, Travis Alexander, again in that.
Yeah, so there's aggravating and mitigating that witnesses can come in and testify to, and yes, I think normally it would be hearsay, but I think it will come into evidence, and so I think they could propound this as evidence, and I think it would come back to haunt her. But then again, you know, the jury may say, you know what, this is a very calculated person, and maybe she's trying to use reverse psychology upon us, and she really wants life, and that's why she said she wants death. I mean, there's just a sick web that's very confusing, and I think at the end of the day, when there's confusion, there's no credibility.
Well, there's, to coin a phrase, yeah, well put on that front. Well, guys, let's listen. Yeah, because we wonder, what could she say? What tone will she take? And we've seen many sides of Jodi Arias. Let's listen to her on the stand as she's trying to recount. And this is about as remorseful as she got on the stand. So let's listen, and we'll get everybody's take coming out. Again, you know, Jodi Arias, as we get that soundbite ready for you, remorse, I'm sorry. Those are the two words that everybody wants to hear. Will we hear them? Will tears and emotions follow? You know, Ted Rollins, you've been in that courtroom. What strikes you about Jodi Arias? And what demeanor do you expect? What look? There's been 1,000 looks as well.
Yeah, and one thing that we should keep in mind is that this is a courtroom that has been shared by these jurors and Jodi Arias for 4.5 months. They may not like her, but they know her. They know her on some level, and depending on how she comes across during her statement, I think that it's going to be difficult for some of these jurors to impose a death sentence on somebody. She's very intelligent. She has, if you think about her life in prison, she could help other people during her life. She could help them with their legal appeals or what have you. She's a very smart woman, and it might be a life that I think some jurors will have difficulty basically extinguishing. So the one thing that she's got to watch out for is making them angry. She gets up there and doesn't apologize and doesn't admit it and continues her lies, because they've already said they don't believe her with their first-degree murder verdict. That's what she really has to watch out for. But I do think there's a chance she's going to connect with somebody who really is going to be reluctant to put her to death.
And that's a good point. And you mentioned anger, Ted. She better not go anywhere near ripping Travis Alexander. We've got that soundbite queued up. Let's listen to it again. This is Jodi Arias on the stand. What we might see, and we'll talk to Chris coming out.
Ma'am, were you crying when you were shooting him?
I don't remember.
Were you crying when you were stabbing him?
I don't remember.
How about when you cut his throat? Were you crying then?
I don't know.
So take a look then. And you're the one that did this, right?
Yes.
And you're the same individual that lied about all this, right?
Yes.
So then take a look at it.
Again, that was one of the most powerful moments. Chris, if she breaks down like that, could that help her?
It could, but again, I think she has zero credibility with this jury. And so one could ask, is she really crying because she's afraid of what she's facing, or is she crying out of remorse? I think many may side with the former. This is not a woman who has a lot of credibility at all. She's covering her face as she's crying. She's saying, I don't know. So if you're so emotionally moved, it's almost as if you're reliving the moment. That's why you're crying so hard. Well, if you're crying so emphatically, then how is it that you cannot recall any details of this event, yet it's moving you to tears? Which alludes one to think that perhaps she's crying not out of guilt, but out of fear of what she's facing.
Okay. We saw the emotions there. We certainly saw emotions last week, and we're going to show you again. And you got to know it's in the jury's hearts and minds, the emotions of Travis Alexander's brother and sister. Also to the question, if Jodi Arias can't save herself, who can? Maybe her ex-boyfriend, Daryl Brewer? Well, let you listen to him as well when he testified. Can he say anything to save her?
I don't make any decisions about who to hire without going to Angie's List first.